number of young men were living in a household, a Christian household, and there was need of renovation. One of the rooms had to be expanded. There was need of meeting room, and so some of the young guys decided to take down one of the walls and redesign the room. Everything worked out fine until some of us started going up the stairs and noticing that as we ran up the stairs, the house was swaying a little bit, because what happened was someone took down a weight-bearing wall without realizing it. And so when, this is a big problem. When I was thinking about the education, the structure of education for a child, I realized that this, like taking down some of the weight-bearing walls in the education of a child will create a problem similar in terms of shaking the structure of the child's soul, education, understanding, and looking at what are the pillars of education, what are the weight-bearing pillars of education. I would say, and I express this, and it helps to say, it's the home, it's the school, and the church. Saint Cosmas of Ayatollah, during the time of the Turkish occupation, came down from Mount Athos and saw the state of education, or the lack of education, of the people, the Greek people, and he started to set up schools. And he said, the school will build the church, and the school will build the monastery. So he expressed that aspect of education. And we know also that in the home itself is a very profound education taking place. And of course, the church is the overriding umbrella where from the time of baptism and through the liturgy of the church, through the sacraments of the church, through the hymns and prayers and the readings of the gospel and epistle and sermons and the life of saints, all this is part of the education. And of course, what's beyond the words, the uncreated energies of God that we're all bathed in, this is part of the education of the soul. And so these three, we should see how they work together. And we're so used to kind of a break in them. People think, well, the school is the school, and the church is for religion, and home is for whatever we do. But we need to recast our idea and see that they're really all intertwined with each other. And someone who's trying to educate their child will start looking at things in that way, and look in the home, how is the education of the child, of our children, taking place in cooperation with Christ? And in the school, why do we think that it's okay for the school to actually work against our children, or go against our own philosophy? And why don't we see that it's really our responsibility for the children to be educated in the right type of way? Maybe if we don't have an Orthodox school, we could at least be much more involved in the school that our children are going to, and examine the textbooks that they're reading, examine the literature they're reading, and see, is this right? Is this good? Because we'll see a lot of times the school is not neutral. Education is not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's communication of values. It's communication of philosophy. And our children perhaps might be getting an education in atheism, kind of based on an atheistic point of view or a humanistic point of view. There's no neutral education. And every regime that's existed in history knows and is very jealous of the educational system. From the time of the Enlightenment or the communist regime or the Nazi regime, they knew if we can get hold of the education of the children, then we have the next generation. And in one Hasidic film that I saw, the rabbi said, when I look at the young people and I could see the light of Hasidism in their eyes, then we know that the next generation is in good stand. And same with us. If we look at our children and we see that they understand their faith, that the light of Christ is within their eyes, then we have hope for the next generation. We should look for that and not just be half asleep or not be so preoccupied that we're not looking at what our children are learning. And oftentimes you hear parents say, my children were doing fine, then all of a sudden something happened and they got involved with drugs and they became promiscuous or something like this. But I believe the fact is it didn't just happen all of a sudden. It happened little by little, slowly. They were shifted in this direction or that direction, or their faith was undermined, and no one ever talked to them and helped them to understand their faith, not their faith, but the faith that the Son of God delivered to man, and founded that faith in a fuller understanding of the world and of themselves and of their relationships and friends who maybe don't believe the same thing. And someone has to do that. Either the parents, not either, but the parents, the pastor, the godparents, the relationships, maybe other friends, and the teachers have to work to kind of make sense of the world. Otherwise, we're leaving our children to somehow make sense of it themselves, when for us a lot of times it doesn't make sense, or we haven't put it together ourselves. And that's not, what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be leading our children and not just abandoning them to the dilemmas that are very difficult. So the 3 pillars of education we should check into: are our children being educated in the way of Christ in the home? Is the church, are they going to church? Are they being brought to church so that the church can have the influence in that way? Do we take them to a hockey practice and baseball practice Sunday morning, even on a feast day, because their coach will be angry, but we don't think about that they're going to be missing one of the great feasts of the church? And do they come into the church to receive blessing? This is, we have to look at that. And in the school, what are they being educated towards? What is the goal of their education at school? Is it just to get into Harvard University so they can get a good job and then make a lot of money? Or is their education towards fulfilling the commandments of Christ, towards knowing God, knowing themselves, and understanding the world in a very particular and very full and illumined way? So this is the idea this is the idea of the 3 pillars of education, and I think it helps to sort out things for parents and teachers and pastors.